So today we have come to the 5th day. So what we have is two very interesting topics. The first one is KPI and the balance scorecard in contract management. And the second one is purchase law and contract management. Okay, that's pretty long, and I'm sure you will have lots of questions on that. Okay, so without wasting any time, let me move on. Right, so what are we going to see? To understand what is balance scorecard and its importance and its components. To explain the use of balance scorecard. To understand the objectives and process involved in a balance scorecard structure. To understand the functions of key performance indicators and service level agreements. To clarify KPI and service level agreements, how it can be integrated in contract management. To explain the key components of SLA and how the performance measures can be included in the tendering stage. To understand what are the ways in which KPI and balance scorecard can become integrated into contract management plan. Right. So this is what is balance scorecard. Okay, it's also called the performance measurement model. Okay, the generic balance scorecard has got 4. One is the financial. Okay, the other one is the second one is called the internal business process. Then comes the customer and then the learning and growth. Okay, based on these 4, vision and strategy of an organization is being decided upon. Now, if you look at the finance alone, what you are monitoring is the objectives, the measure, the targets, and the initiative. For each one, you can see that. Okay, so please understand from the concept itself, this concept has been propounded by 2 professors from Harvard Business School, Robert Kaplan and David Norton. They are the 2 professors who propounded this balance scorecard. It's a measurement framework that helps managers to translate strategy goals into operational objectives. See, this is the most important part. Translate the strategy goals into operational objectives. Now, this is the beauty is it can measure qualitatively as well as quantitatively. Okay, both are possible using balance scorecard. Combine both qualitative and quantitative measures, acknowledge the expectations of different stakeholders, and relate an assessment of performance to choose the strategy. Okay, now, by the way, people may think, what is strategy? Okay, in simple terms, strategy is the long-term vision in which the organization have to go. There are always 3 questions when you talk about strategy. You have to decide, where are you now? Where do you want to go? And how do you go there is what is called strategy. Right, and I was talking to Madam before we started, I think on the first day or the second day, about strategic management, how it is being taught in the university, in ASBM. You know, somehow people do not give the real importance for strategic management. For an MBA graduate, strategic management is one of the most important subjects he should be thorough with, and it should be taught by industry professionals. Right, so this is what we talked about. So there are 4 quadrants to the balance scorecard: customer, process, learning, and financial. Now, it is said that if you entrust an organization to finance people to run it, they will run it. But their focus is only on finance. Okay, they know only to get the return on investment or return on assets. These are the only things what they can look for. Okay, apart from that, how the organization has to grow, how to look after the customer is all the learning and growth which takes place. They are naive to it. Okay, that is the problem of entrusting to finance people alone. So you've got to have a holistic view as to how the organization has to move. Okay, so people say that the balanced scorecard, in some ways, it is similar to MBO, that is management by objectives. There are lots of difference between the two. The balanced scorecard enables managers to translate, as we said, corporate goals into divisional, departmental, and team goals. Okay, it can narrow down. This is where I said the other day, strategic business unit, SBU. Okay, wherein each department is considered, or a unit is considered as a revenue center. Revenue and expenditure has to be looked into and it has to be matched. So the generic model of balanced scorecard consists of 4 evaluation categories. Okay, let's look at the components of the balanced scorecard. There are 4 perspectives, like what we said. Financial, concerned with the growth, profitability, and risk from shareholders' perspective. Okay, let's look at the customer. Now, how many types of customers are there? Anybody from the participants? How many types of customers are there? Nimisha?
Types of customers, as you said.
Yes. How many types of customers are you aware of? Only one?
I'm not sure.
Right. Okay. Right. Always remember in the quality management, when we talk about customer, there are 2 types of customers. One is the internal customer and one is the external customer. Okay. If you have to satisfy the external customer, it's imperative that you have to satisfy your internal customers. Then only you can go out to satisfy the outside customer. Okay. Does it make sense to you? And who are your internal customers? Your HR department, legal department, finance, all these people have to work together. Okay, then only you can give results for your external customer. Now, the third one is the internal business process. Okay, with a focus on the priorities for various business processes that create customer and shareholder satisfaction. Okay, see, how is it? Where is the organization, like what I said? Okay, where is the organization now? Okay, does it want to grow? And how do you grow? That is what strategy, what we said just now. Okay, but if it has to grow, if the organization has to grow, or the organization has to become a learning organization, there has to be a dramatic change within the organization. Okay, the people who are working within the organization has to have an internal urge for growth. Otherwise, growth will not happen. Okay, so essentially, so there should be continuous. It's like Kaizen, the Japanese Kaizen. There has to be an urge for the organization to grow on its own, but the organization has to provide the right environment. Okay, so internal business process is an essential part if the organization has to grow and deliver what it has in the modern times. Then comes the learning and growth, concerns with firms' efforts to create, support innovation and growth. Okay, so that is the learning and growth. So internal process is there, customer is there, financial. So these are the main 4 perspectives what you can look into in order to have a proper balanced scorecard. Now, these are the generic ones. Now, what is happening is a lot of organizations and a lot of departments, even HR department, everybody has formulated their own balanced scorecard based on these 4 criteria. Right, what is the application of balanced scorecard? Measuring organizational, business unit, and department success. Balancing long-term and short-term actions. Balancing different measures of success in terms of the following: financial, customer, internal operations. Okay, there is a repetition of internal operations and then learning and growth. So these are the applications of the balanced scorecard. Now organizations have started using balanced scorecard, which means every department is being analyzed thoroughly on on a weekly, on a quarterly basis, I'm sorry, on a on a weekly basis, everybody has to report. For example, okay, if it is a sales organization, how many sales inquiries came in a particular week? How many of the sales has been converted into business? Okay, when did the inquiry come in, and when was it responded? When was it followed up? All these metrics are available in the system itself. So nobody can fool around, and all these things are measured, and then it's there, it's documented as well. Right, so this is the balance scorecard, what we have been talking about. Okay, now let's look at, by the way, any questions on so far what I've just said on the balance scorecard? Do you think it's a useful measure, useful performance measure? We are going to see very soon more details on the application part. Okay, if you want to ask questions later on, please do that. Right, let's see how to establish balanced organization controls. The underlying premises of balanced scorecard is that firms jeopardize their future performance possibilities when financial controls are emphasized at the expense of the strategic controls. Now, this is what I said at the beginning. Okay, if you give an organization to be managed by finance people, they can only look at from a financial perspective, not from a strategic point of view, nor they're concerned about learning and growth or the internal development of the company. Financial controls provide a feedback about the outcomes achieved from the past actions, but do not communicate the drivers of a firm's future. Okay, now I'm not trying to discredit the financial people. What I'm trying to say, they are good at setting up things. Okay, let's say after 3 years, you look at how the company has grown. Financially, it is sound, but okay, if the organization has to grow, you got to have a different perspective. That's where the balance scorecard come in. This is where you got to come up with different aspects to measure, to move the company forward. Okay, I'm sure you're all aware of the maturity cycle of the organization. Thus, an overemphasis on financial controls could promote organizational behavior that has net effect on sacrificing the firm's long-term value creating potential for short-term performance gains. See, this is the important part. Okay, when organizations, is being sacrificed, the long-term vision is being sacrificed because of the needs of the financial solidarity. Okay, they are more concerned about the financial strength of the organization rather than the growth of the organization. Right, now we are moving on to another very important aspect, the key performance indicators. Okay, now let's see what are the key performance indicators. Are the metrics used to establish whether the contract is performing as it should, reaching its targets and objectives. Are used to measure the success of the contract. We were talking quite a bit about contract yesterday, and we were also talking about how to measure the contracts. Okay, so measuring the contract, at what stage is it? Okay, how the contract is functioning? What are the pitfalls? Okay, what are the anomalies? Okay, all this can be measured if you have set up proper key performance indicators. Okay, now one good advantage of working with a multinational company is that they would bring in from their overseas connection or overseas company the key performance indicators which has been successful in other countries. Okay, it does not mean that key performance indicators have to be successful everywhere. Okay, so they can show you the various key performance indicators which have been successful in certain countries depending on their economy. So it's good for you to adopt certain basic key performance indicators as a model framework, to be honest. Okay. Now, another very important thing which I have been talking about from the beginning is the service level agreements. It's a very, very important thing in my mind, and I want you to understand this concept of service level agreements properly. Okay, let's see what it is. The service level agreements are the commitments made by the supplier during the tender process on what they will deliver to the client as part of the ongoing contract if their bid is successful. Now, we have seen in day one that an RFP is being sent and your potential vendor responds to the RFP. Now, in that performer invoice, what he is giving, he may itemize the requirement as per the template provided. And in addition, he may give other details, okay, like warranties, payment terms, okay, what is the cost, and that is what is the freight cost, what is the insurance cost, okay, so that you can determine what is the landed cost, okay. So wherever you don't have the details, okay, you are free to ask during the tender evaluation time. Prior to that itself, you can ask for more details, okay, like service level agreements. See, like what I've been saying, and in my experience, the gray area, what I have found where the Western countries take us for a jolly good ride is the warranties. Okay, it's a gray area. They will not spell out the hidden cost. They will say just one line. As per SLA, as per our survey, as per our boilerplate shown at the back of the performer invoice. See, boilerplate, it's a very commonly used, and we are going to see boilerplates in this session itself. Okay, so again, my request is please do not accept any boilerplate, okay, without proper specification. You can be taken for a jolly good ride. So you should insist, and you should put in your RFP itself, boilerplate terms will not be accepted. Detailed costing has to be provided. You know, that should be part and parcel of your RFP. So how do you start? So it should be initially incorporated in the tender charter. Okay, so I want you to understand what is the genesis of it. So the first point is it has to be incorporated in the tender charter under the precise topic. Okay, then when you make the RFP, when you go through each section, yes, you know, yes. Okay, these are the criteria of what is required to be incorporated in the RFP. Okay, so it should start from the supplier, the commitments. Okay, now let's see. It's important to know what your customer really needs and what it may be currently missing. This form, the specification that goes out to the tender. You can then use this information to define your KPIs and service level agreements. Make sure that you refer to your tender specification and the winning bid to ensure that everything is captured. Okay, please understand very clearly the importance of service level agreements as well as the KPI. These two factors, when these two measures, okay, can play a definite role in measuring the performance of the contract. Okay, right. Any clarification on KPIs or on the service level agreement? Do you think these are important tools for measuring a contract? Okay. Now let's see a little more on the service level agreements. it is vital that reasonable goals are set based on your current baseline achievements to ensure that the goals are attainable and fit for the purpose. Okay, it's called the strategic fit. Once you have established your KPI and the service level agreements, you need to keep track of the progress through the duration of the contract. And how do you measure the progress of the contract? Through balanced scorecard. Okay, we would recommend putting a plan together for how they will reach with key milestone achievements throughout the contract. Okay, so it's better to integrate in the service level agreements itself your KPIs as well. Finally, pre-schedule quarterly and yearly reviews with your supplier. See, it's very important to have proper dialogue, open dialogue, okay, in a friendly manner with your supplier. I would like to repeat what I had said earlier. While you're communicating with your supplier, it is essential that you have to maintain professional decorum. Okay, do not implicate the supplier or anybody, purposely in your communications. Deliberately, you should avoid such words, okay, which can endanger your own reputation. By any chance, if there is a dispute and if these email communications have to go to the court, yes, it will stand against you. So be very careful as to the wording what you're using. Be friendly with the supplier and try to take the best out of the supplier. We often feel, okay, now another thing which comes to my mind is the supplier performance are also evaluated by the company in a very professional manner. Okay, I've seen examples from DHL and some of the multinational companies wherein the organization keeps a proper record of the supplier's performance. Okay, and on a half-yearly basis, this report is sent to the supplier. Okay, pointing out how they can improve the system, what are the discrepancies they have faced. All these matters are shown, okay, in that report, and they will come up with, okay, how they can improve the process. Okay, now there is a simple survey called Perfect Order Survey. This is very much used in organizations. It's a very simple survey. It's called the Perfect Order Survey. Okay, now you're getting documents. There's so much of movements of documents for shipments which are coming in. So an organization evaluates how these things are being carried out, whether you have received for the shipments, the documents on time, whether you have the materials, what you have received, is it perfect or is there a short shipment? All these things are monitored on a half-yearly basis and then yearly basis, and then an average is taken. Then when you take the average, you can see the perfect order index is only very minimal. It can be 50% or 60% only. So this is an opportunity for the organization to understand, yes, there is something wrong in the process. It is not the function which is the problem. It is a process in which these shipments are carried out are a problem. Okay, so these are all measuring tools which are being used very much. Right, we often facilitate KPI reviews for our clients using scorecards to assess the supplier's measures of the service compared with bias assessment, so that there is an open dialogue between both the parties. During the meetings, go through the data and confirm that the agreements and the expected are met, so your customer can reap the full benefits of your new contract. Okay, so all these measuring tools like service level agreements or KPI are used for the better performance with your supplier, so that the organization can benefit. Right. Any questions like what I asked on we are moving on to a different subject. Okay. Any questions on service level agreements? Is it understood properly? as well as KPIs. Just a question to the participants. Are you using the service level agreements? Or I'm sure, and I was talking to somebody, I think in India, mostly people use it as amendments. They may not say it as service level agreements. They may say it as an amendment. Am I right in believing so? Instead of saying it as service level agreements, okay, they may call it as appendix. Appendix A, okay, right, it's one and the same, but service level agreement is more appropriate. Right, so let's see how to measure contract performance. This is what we were talking about yesterday more and more. Implementing a contractor's balance scorecard helps organization address weakness and optimize contract management. See, you got to know what is your weakness, okay? We all know the measure of SWOT analysis, okay? The strength and weakness, opportunities and threats, okay? The strength and the weakness are internal to the organization, correct? And they determine the positional advantage of the organization, while opportunities and threats are external, wherein the organization has no control because it is subject to the business environment. Okay, so it's essential that it has to be mentioned. I mean, the strength and the opportunities have to, the strength and the weakness within the organization, especially in the contract management scenario, has to be measured properly. To survive in today's environment, companies must be flexible, service-oriented, cost-effective. See, this is a very good summation. In today's environment, companies must be flexible, service-oriented, cost-effective. Okay, and I may add also responsive. Okay, if an organization is not responsive to the market condition, yes, you are nowhere. Okay, you have to serve the customer according to what the customer needs, not according to what you want. Okay, so service has come, and it was earlier, it was the customer satisfaction, which everybody knows. Now we have moved to customer delight. Okay, and now still further down, there is a new concept which is called customer capital. It's a little on the high side. I don't want to get into the explanation of that. So likewise, the needs of the customer are being looked at, and it is growing. Right, and it has to be cost effective as well. So the market has become so dynamic. How come, if you look at the market 10 to 15 years back, and now the market has become so dynamic, and there is an ever-changing market. By the way, who has brought about this change? Who is responsible for bringing the change? Is it good or bad? Anybody? Who has brought about the change? Is the change sustainable? So what should be the objective of the organization? Anybody? Well, the answer is very simple. It is the technology which has made the changes. Technology is the facilitator. Technology is the enabler. So it's up to the organization that it has to change dramatically if you want to be responsive to the market. Balance scorecard are thus necessary to offer systematic approach to enrich the performance of an organization. Because please understand again, the balance scorecard is a mechanism whereby you're measuring quantitative as well as qualitative measures. Okay, and it can come down to any level on the business level, department level, or unit level. Okay, any level it can be implemented. Implementing contractors' balance scorecard offer a way to incorporate strategy of gaining knowledge about your organization to enhance performance and improve effectiveness and efficiency. Okay, I think I've talked already about effectiveness and efficiency in one of my sessions. So please bear in mind, this is a very important aspect. Okay, efficiency as well as effectiveness. Okay, there are certain things which you have to always understand. The service, the SBU unit. Okay, each organization or each unit is a strategic business unit. Each one is a revenue center. Okay, from an organization point of view, if the organization has to move forward, yes, it has to have a proper balance between effectiveness and efficiency. Okay, right. Incorporate strategy for gaining knowledge about your organization. So once an organization is running well, okay, the contract performance within the organization will always be up to the mark. They can help you towards developing a strategy in the long run. They facilitate adjustments to changing terms, trends, and market conditions. See, if you have a proper contract, okay, now one thing we have seen before about the contract has to be flexible and the contract has to be adapted. Okay, the business is very dynamic, the market is changing. So there are times when the contract also needs to be changed according to the requirement of the business environment. Okay, so at that time, we should be able to change according to the needs of the customer. Balanced scorecard are necessary to optimize performance and resources used throughout the organization. Right, let's move on. How to measure contract performance. Applying balanced scorecard to contract follows a few general performance measures. Is used to guide the current as well as target future performance by looking at measures in 4 categories. This is what we have been talking about. Okay, so the balanced scorecard helps you to measure the performance of the contract management as well as that of the organization, immediate as well as that of the future. Okay, now the parameters are the financial performance of the company. Has it achieved the targets? Okay, what are the objectives? See, like what we have seen in the first slide as well. What are the objectives? What are the targets? Okay, all these 4 aspects are continuously monitored. Okay, it's not as and when you please. It's continuous assessment. Then customer knowledge, internal business process, learning and growth, customer knowledge. Okay, so what do you know about the customer? What are the requirements of the customer? How responsive are you to the changing business environment? Okay, now, as we have said, the market is very dynamic and changing. So as the logistics people, it's our responsibility that we have to provide 24/7 service to the customers. Okay, we have to be proactive and internal business processes. Now, it's essential that the organization has to have processes within the organization for growth, especially now. Innovation is one of the major aspects, okay, as well as sustainability. These are 2 major issues which are coming up, which are of prime importance. And now, as you can see, technology is changing, has brought in so many new things. Okay, Internet of Things, Okay. Can you see my screen? Madam, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Is everything fine? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I don't know what happened. Okay, so when we talk about the business processes, whatever I said, the latest technology right. Okay, sorry about the technical issues which are coming in. I don't know what is the reason. Just for your information, I live in Kerala and we are flooded with, there's water flooding all around. 10 districts of Kerala are on red alert. The schools are all closed for the last 4 days. So the water is increasing day by day, and the rains also. Okay, now it is slightly stopped. I have in front of my car, in front of my house, the entire place. Okay, I live in a very elevated place, so the entire place is full of cars. Right, I hope the net won't disturb me. I do have my hub as well. God has been great, so until today there was no problem at all on the net part. Right, okay, let's hope for the best. Okay, when it comes to the more, especially the organization considers, how do we look to resource providers? How do customers see us? See, these are the questions one has to ask yourself. How do customers see us? Are we productive and effective? Can we sustain excellence over time? Okay. Now, I may add that innovation also and sustainability, these are also factors should be looked into, okay, from an organization point of view. Okay. By the way, how do you get business? Why should somebody come to you for business? See, this is a question. What is it that you excel? What is the differentiation you have? Okay, in logistics, we always call this as the 3 things: better, faster, cheaper. Okay, if your organization cannot do it better, faster, and cheaper than your competitors, nobody will ever come to you. Okay, so you have to have your own differentiation strategies. Right, how to measure? It's a continuation of what we just saw. Implementing contracts, balanced scorecards in contract management is about maximizing the contract lifecycle, improving management's involvement in that lifecycle. Okay, contract lifecycle. Okay, which we have also seen earlier as well. There are so many processes in the contract lifecycle. Okay, there are so many activities which this is what we saw in the first day. Okay, how do you develop? Okay, what are the overview of contract development? There are so many aspects in the contract development. Okay, understanding can help managers transcend traditional notions about functional barriers and ultimately lead to improved decision making and problem solving. Okay, now decision making is another very important aspect which an organization has to carry out. And I would say, as MBA students, this is something which you have to learn properly. Okay, there are so many decision-making tools which has to be used. Okay, let me combine decision making and problem solving. Both has to be combined together. Okay, as an MBA student, before you get out of the university, you got to have a very clear-cut idea as to how these things can be done. Now, normally Okay, I think there is a lesson as well about decision making. Now these are being taught as an academic subject. That's not enough. You should have application oriented. Okay, now in my teaching career overseas in various universities, okay, on an undergraduate level there is a tutorial system. Now I've been teaching in the London School of Economics almost 15 years in the international program. There is more emphasis on tutorial system than the lecture, because in the tutorial system we teach the skills. Okay, the academic rigor is very high, but it's really worth it. Okay, the students have got there is a brand image for LSE, London School of Economics. Okay, why? Because that is what the academic rigor is, and that's where we teach them a whole lot of skills, which is not happening in our colleges. And wherever I move around, wherever I talk to the students, I keep always telling them, please, in your subjects, you are learning so many things. Okay, but for example, and my advice to them is you keep a glossary of what you're learning. Like everybody knows SWOT analysis. Okay, what else? Okay, you come across so many, I call it as a management tool. Okay, SWOT analysis. I mean, in the SWOT analysis itself, yes, there are so many things. Okay, return on assets, return on investment. Likewise, on various subjects in marketing, you're learning so many management tools. So my suggestion is always write down in these glossaries, okay, what is the new tool you have learned? Write down in your own words what that tool means in your language, I mean, in your own words, and then say where it can be applied. The advantage of writing, okay, is such that if you write it on your own, you will never forget. Okay, one thing which I always keep telling wherever I teach, I mean, wherever I go for lecture is what is missing in the Indian context is study skills are not being taught in the universities. Okay, so study skills are a must for each subject. There has to be a study skill. How the students have to learn. Okay, so these are all very important things. So you've got to know how decision making has to be carried out in an application manner. Okay, likewise, problem solving. The fishbone analysis, okay, or the cause and effect. All these are things which should come to you. When you go for an interview, you could be very well asked to explain what are the application. Okay, so be prepared for all that. The balance scorecard keeps companies looking and moving forward or backwards. Okay, right. I've just finished the first part. I think I'm right on time by God's grace. Okay, any clarification on what we have just covered, please feel free to ask, because I have to move to a very, very important topic, which is purchase law and contract management. I'm sure you will have lots of questions on that. Right, any questions? Do you think it was a useful tool, what you have learned? The KPIs and the balance scorecard in measuring the contract performance. Okay, please use it. Please understand more. Please read about such things. Okay, so if there is no questions, let me move on, because time is very important. So what we are going to see today is what is the legal authority and personal liability of the purchasing manager. Okay, so please listen very carefully, because this is law. What I'm going to explain is more law, okay, and its implications. What is law of agency, legal authority, personal liability of purchase manager? Contract law. What are the essential elements of contract? Purchase order. Is it a contract? See, this is a question which I was asking yesterday. Is purchase order a contract? Okay, then cancellation of orders, breaches of contract, damages, acceptance and rejection of goods, or honest mistakes. Then Uniform Commercial Code. Yes, it's an interesting one. We will see that very soon. Then purchasing law, warranties, transport terms, Incoterms. Okay, then patents, intellectual property, non-disclosure agreement. Okay, by the way, the non-disclosure agreement, I'm giving a form which will be on the website. Okay. Likewise, what I mentioned earlier is also the elements of, okay, the essential elements of a contract, which is almost 5 pages. I'm sure it's already on the website. Right, so now let's look at two things, legal authority and personal liability. Okay, first is the legal authority. Loss of agency. What is that? Govern the relationship between principals and agents. Okay, who is an agent? Person or entity who has been authorized to act on behalf of some other person or entity. Okay, we'll take examples. Okay, let me finish this and then we'll take examples, then it will be more clarity. Principal, the corresponding person or entity for whom agents carry out their authority. Let us say that, okay, your company is an agent of Whirlpool Air Conditioner. Okay, you are an agent of Whirlpool Air Conditioner in Bernardino. Okay, so who is your principal? It is the Whirlpool company is your principal. Okay, right. So the authority, so there is a relationship between principal and agent. Now, who provides the warranty? The agent or the principal? It's the principal. Okay, it's the principal who provides the warranty for the air conditioners or whatever other electrical appliances which come under Whirlpool, like fridge, microwave, all those things. Okay, now what you have to understand is, okay, I'm just deviating a little bit on the subject. When your customer comes to you with a claim letter in black and white, okay, about an issue, okay, you have to sign it and then give it back to the customer because he would insist for it. Okay, now some people will say, no, we don't sign. You are free to sign, provided you put the remark, accepted without prejudice. Okay, accepted without prejudice. Number one. Number two, when you are acting as an agent of Whirlpool, all your communications should show when you sign on it on an email or letterhead or whatever it is. Okay, you should say as agent for Whirlpool Corporation, whatever it is, whatever the name in India it is. Okay, you have to show that. What is the reason for it? The reason is to reduce your liability. As an organization, you don't have to take that liability on your head. You are acting as an agent and you're putting it in black and white on your stationery or email communication as an agent of Whirlpool so and so. Is this clear? This is the way you have to carry out your communications because you have a very clear-cut, demarcated responsibility, legal liability between your principal and you are an agent. Okay, right. That's called the laws of agency. Now comes the legal authority, buyer or general agent of the buying company. Now the supplier has the right to rely on the individual buyer's written or verbal statements. Sales representative, a special agent of the seller, can solicit orders and cannot change terms and conditions. Please understand, as a sales representative of the organization, you do not have authority to change the terms and conditions stipulated by your principal. Okay, nor you have right to change the pricing as well, or terms and conditions or warranty. Okay, if any special requirement your client needs, you will have to go back to the principal and agree on an ad hoc basis for that customer. That is not going to be a routine one. Probably the principal will say, this is applicable as a special case for this customer only. Okay, please understand. Okay, so here we are playing with the legal authority. Okay, so you cannot jeopardize that relationship. Right, now let's look at the personal liability. Okay, now you as a salesperson for the organization, you are liable. Okay, you got to act in the best interest of the employer. If you bifurcate and do things according to your will and pleasure against the company's rules, then you can be subject to criminal and civil lawsuits. Okay, you have jeopardized the company's image, reputation, and the company has incurred a heavy financial loss. Okay, and I was telling you yesterday about the two, a UK example wherein two salespeople were competing against each other, and and how one person sent very damaging emails to the other company, okay, accusing them of unfair means to get the contract. Okay, what happens that the other company who got the email took it to the court, and there was a ruling wherein the other company had to pay a very heavy price and penalty. Okay, so be careful and do not get into any unwanted, okay, issues with any company or even with the suppliers. Now, this is something which is very interesting part. Actual versus apparent authority. Okay, actual authority stems from the instructions and granting of authority by an employer. You are, let's say you are the general manager of the company or the manager of a company. The authority which is vested in you is based on your actual authority of the position. You are being given a certain position. So in that position, there is so much of authority which is vested on you. You cannot go beyond that. Okay, you have certain parameters. If something has to be done over and above, you got to get the permission of your senior management or of the board. Okay, apparent authority is that authority the seller perceives to be available. See, please understand this is a misleading concept. Just because your counterpart working in another organization has got more authority than you, okay, that does not mean that you have that apparent authority. You do not have. You have only actual authority, what has been given to you by your organization. The other one is called the apparent authority of another organization, okay, which has got nothing to do with you. So employer may seek legal action against the individual buyer personally. So if you violate these things, or if you act taking into consideration that you have an apparent authority and you do things, you can get into civil suits with the company. Okay. Then exceeding both authorities may involve legal action by employer and by the third party. So be careful. Okay, what you have in your position is only an apparent authority, okay, and not apparent authority. You have only actual authority. So this is on the personal liability part. Okay, now let's look at personal liability a little more in detail. Damaging illegal activities, getting into damaging and illegal activities against the organization outside the scope of authority, or you're indulging in activities which are outside the scope of the organization. Then deception for personal gain. See, this is a very important one because lots of the sales people have got these tendencies, trying to promise the moon in order to get a contract or a business. Okay. Do not give false promises. You got to be factual. Okay, because whatever you say has got a bearing on the organization. And if they fail, yes, the organization can be taken into task. Eventually, it will come back to you, okay? Then violating the lawful protection of items owned by others. Violating the lawful protection of items owned by others. See, this is again another area which is very, very dicey, okay? Unlawful protection of items owned by others. So you got to be very careful as to what you're doing, or you're trying to do something just to please somebody else. No, okay? You've got to be careful. Whose property are you dealing with? Okay. Then misuse of proprietary information. See, what is proprietary information? This is something which is known to the company alone. Okay, this is where, okay, disclosure agreement, non-disclosure agreement comes in. Okay, now for example, now if your company is dealing with subcontractors, okay, or market intermediaries, okay, then the organization will make the others sign a non-disclosure agreement, so that under no circumstances these intermediaries will ever disclose the secrets of the company, or the, whatever, the skills, the quotations, whatever it is, okay? You are not allowed to disclose it. So misuse of proprietary information, violation of antitrust laws, then unlawful transportation of hazardous materials and toxic waste. Okay, this comes in the transportation part. You are not allowed to do any of these things because there are norms which are laid down. You have to abide by that. Okay, so these are issues wherein you have a personal liability. Okay, so you cannot deviate from that. You have to abide by the rules and regulations of the country, of the environment where you're operating. Right, now let's look more of the contract law. What are the essential elements of contract? So the contract has got three components: offer, acceptance, and consideration. Now, what is consideration? Consideration is nothing but the money part, the monetary terms of mentioned in the contract. Okay, offer. Now, when you talk about offer, what comes to your mind? What is the starting point for the offer? Okay, now this is where the contract comes in. Now, before we talk of the contract, you should think of the RFP, request for proposal. Okay, and then comes the contract. Okay, then the contract is evaluated and the contract is awarded. Okay, that's where you come the acceptance. Right, competent parties and mutual assent. Okay, competent parties, and who are the competent parties in a contract law? Okay, and mutual assent has to be obtained. Then comes, okay, the contract is a legal it's a legal document. I mean, it's a legal issue which has to be agreed by both the parties. Okay, now here comes, which we have talked earlier. I'm repeating it. Here comes the issues like the jurisdiction. Where can the contract be enforced? Okay, these are all very important issues. Okay, what are the rules? What are the rights and duties of the concerned persons? How the cost can be bifurcated? What are the risk elements? Okay, there are so many issues which are in the legal purview. Okay, like what I said yesterday, when the contracts are made, it's essential that apart from the legal counsel, the applications also should be incorporated, for which you got to have people who are competent enough and you have got experience in contract management, like the project managers, okay, the operation managers. They should be part and parcel of it because they are the only ones who can give, the application perspective of a contract. Right. So elements of a contract law: offer, a proposal or an expression by one person that he or she is willing to do something for certain terms. See? This is where, okay, it's an offer, a proposal or an expression by one person that he or she is willing to do something for certain terms. Okay. Yes, you have an overseas vendor who is willing to provide you the specified machinery which is given in the performer invoice and which has been incorporated in the contract, okay, for which you have agreed as to what is the price, the cost price. Okay, and then there is the landed price. I mean, then there is the insurance, the freight cost, and the landed cost. Okay, let's say in Bombay, the landed cost in Bombay. So all these are included in the proposal. So it's up to you to understand, okay, what is being given in the contract. Acceptance. Contract does not exist until the offer is formally accepted. So it's essential that contract has to be accepted. Okay, now I have a question for everybody. What is the method by which a contract is accepted by, let's say, I wouldn't say a contract at this stage, an offer given by the consignee or the buyer is understood by the supplier? Okay, let me rephrase my question. How do you know an offer made by the buyer, okay, to an overseas vendor has been accepted by the buyer, let's say in India? And what is being given in return so that both the parties have come to an understanding? And what is that called?
Is it a quotation?
Louder, Nisham.
Is it a quotation?
Think about the slide what I showed yesterday. I showed a slide yesterday how an international trading takes place, correct? Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you're on the right track. Get a little more into it. Look at the slide. Try to remember, recollect the slide. How does it start? Okay. The request is given by an RFQ, correct? Right? RFQ by the,
yes, sir.
by the buyer, okay, to, let's say, France. How does he respond? He responds with a, what is it that is called as performer invoice? Are you able to recollect now? Okay,
Yes,
ask me
sir.
questions. Ask me questions if you don't understand. Okay, ask me questions. You are initially, okay, let me repeat. You have initially sent the request by called RFQ, not an RFP. Okay, it's a request for quotation you have asked to a supplier you have identified in France. Then the supplier in France responds to you with a performer invoice. I said at that point of time, it is not a commercial invoice because the transaction is not over. So it's called a performer invoice. Everything is detailed there. Okay. Then once you get the performer invoice, then what are you doing? What is the next step you are getting into? Yes, Nimisham. Please don't forget these processes. Then you're getting into purchase order. Now, are you able to recollect? Okay, now you are able to raise a purchase order based on the performer invoice, what has been provided by the seller. You raise the purchase order, okay, as according to what he has given, and you are free to make certain changes like the Incoterms and who is going to be the agent in France. Okay, and what is the negotiable document? All these changes you can make it. And then you send the purchase order back to the seller, right? Agreed? Then the seller gives you another document. And what is that document known as? And that document is a confirmation of the acceptance of your terms by the seller. That's the starting point of the contract. And what is that contract known as?
The sales contract?
Absolutely, absolutely. You said it. That's called the sales contract. Okay. The sales contract, please let me repeat for the benefit of everybody. The sales contract is a very difficult, very important document. And if there is a dispute between the buyer and the seller, the court will look into the sales contract only because it's a clear-cut evidence of agreement between the buyer and the seller. Okay, that's called a sales contract. I also said if it's a regular business between the two companies, the email communications is enough to be considered as a sales agreement. There may not be apparent sales agreement. Okay, the email communications between the two companies can be construed for a sales agreement. Okay, so the point what I was trying to say here is, okay, acceptance. Contract does not exist until the offer is formally accepted. So by giving a sales agreement, you're formally the vendor overseas, the seller accepts the terms and conditions of the buyer. Okay, meeting of the minds may offer or differing terms and conditions. Consideration, a form of mutual obligation. Okay, so a contract is a mutual obligation of both the parties. Okay, like a marriage contract. A marriage contract is between the husband and wife. So it has to be mutually agreed upon. Right. So this is just an ordinary process of contract. Okay, you're sending in this case an RFQ. Okay, then supplier quotes for it. Okay, then two things can happen. That you can go for a negotiation if things are not right, or the prices are not right, or other terms and conditions are to be negotiated, or otherwise it's readily accepted. Then you have a contract building process. Then the contract is awarded, then the contract administration happens. So this is a simplified contract process. Right. Now let's look at major parts of the purchase order. Please ask me questions, okay? By asking questions only you will learn. And it gives me further chance for me to think and give you the right answer, okay? Now, what are the things in the purchase order? Okay, I asked the question again yesterday, I'm repeating my question. Is purchase order a contract? Is purchase order a contract?
Sir, this is Ram Mohan Namile from Hyderabad.
Yeah.
One clarification, sir. When we say purchase contract, is it different from a sales contract? I think at places there is a sales contract and at places purchase contract. I think they are one and the same. Am I right?
Let me rephrase the question, okay? What
is the difference between a sales contract and a purchase contract?
Right. Okay. When is the purchase contract given? Let me try to understand your question a little more. When is the purchase contract given?
No, sir. Let me put it to this one.
Yeah.
Are they one or different? First, you kindly clarify this one. Then I will ask my next doubt, if any.
Okay. See, internationally,
whatever is the name, whether the title reads sales contract or purchase contract, there cannot be a sales contract without a purchase and a purchase contract without a seller.
No.
So see, are they one and the same or different?
See, yeah, there is a difference. Okay, there is a difference because the sales contract is issued by the vendor, the seller. Okay, he has agreed to all the terms and conditions stipulated on the purchase order of the of the buyer. Okay, that's how a sales contract comes in. Nothing. See, at this point of time, it's only an agreement between the seller and the buyer. That's why it's called a sales contract. Okay, that's why it's called a sales contract. Now, then only things will happen. Now, once you get a sales contract, then the company can raise a letter of credit. Okay, now, okay, now go ahead.
No, sir. Now, my point is that a sales contract is signed by both the seller as well as the purchaser. Am I right?
Right. Correct.
Then it's a sales cum purchase contract in the meaning.
No,
in the meaning of it, it's a sales as well as a purchase contract.
See, what happens is in certain countries, okay, or certain organizations, people like to do shortcuts. Okay, got it. So I'm talking about the normal way it should be. Okay, so people, or in certain countries, they may have their own shortcut way of doing it. See, purchase contract, like what you said, a purchase order is raised, okay, by the buyer, on which the.
Sir, order is one piece of work, contract is for a longer period, understandably. Purchase order, one single purchase order.
Yeah. You want to say that again? Contract is slowly.
Yeah. So there could be any number of purchase orders in a purchase contract, understandably, according to my understanding.
Correct. Absolutely. Correct.
Absolutely.
See,
that's
one second. See, when you give a purchase order of that nature, it's for a, let's say it can be for a 1 year period. You're giving an estimation of what you intend to purchase in a period of 1 year. See, it's an estimation. It's not an order. It's an estimation. Since you said there can be so many purchase orders, okay,
yes,
over a period of time. Got it? So
yes,
first one, what you have said is you cannot say it as a purchase order. It is an estimation of the intended purchase for 1 year. Got it? Then, like you have rightly said, then there can be so many purchase orders being raised by the company. Am I making it clear to you?
Yes, sir. Then one more thing, sir. We also use the word rate contract.
Yeah, rate contract. See, right, agreed.
Because the rate will not change under the rate contract for 6 months or 1 year, whatever is the agreed period, the rate remains the constant.
Yes, absolutely. See, okay, for example, like what we were talking yesterday about transportation contract, okay, or a third party, warehousing management contract, okay, labor contract. So these are all subsections in a contract, or it can be part of an SLA. It can be part of an SLA. See, now, for example, let's take the case of consumables, a simple example. Okay. Now, consumable in a lot of major companies, they have one annual contract. Okay. An annual contract is raised wherein all the prices are given and it's agreed upon. It's an annual contract. Okay. Then various departments within the organization raise their requirements according to their need and send it directly to the stationery supplier with a copy to the procurement department. Got it? Okay, so it's an annual stationery contract which the various departments are making use of it. Okay, they are sending their own requirement, but with a copy to the procurement department. Okay, so the modus of operandi can differ according to the circumstances. Okay, and especially now with the technology, more and more organizations are resorting to these sort of methods so that, okay, their work can unnecessarily be reduced. Okay, have I cleared your questions properly, or still there is a doubt?
Again, back to purchase and sale contracts. I have a little still lack
So-
of this one. So my point is that purchase and sales are the mutual image and I mean contra this one. There cannot be a sale without a purchase and a purchase without a sale.
Okay.
So whatever the caption we give, whether it's a sale contract or a purchase contract or a sales come purchase contract, both parties are involved. There cannot be only a sales contract without a purchaser or vice versa. Then why these two different names? That is my point. Or should we understand that whatever the title is, whether it's a sale contract or a purchase contract, we should understand it's a sale come purchase contract.
Right. Okay. Now I get it. See, it is a purchase contract. Sale is a component of the purchase. See,
sale is a component of purchase. Okay.
Yeah. See, we're talking about between the principal and the agent. Okay.
Right.
I said, okay, assume that you are the agent. Okay. You are the agent and the principal is Whirlpool. Okay. And you are carrying the sales activities in Bhubaneswar on behalf of the principal Whirlpool. So you are carrying sales on behalf of your principal. It's a sales contract. You have a sales contract with your customers and you are giving a warranty on behalf of your principals to the designated customers you have. That's a sales contract. Okay. Got it? Now, if you are placing, let's say, okay, your stock is over, then you are placing a purchase contract with the Whirlpool, let's say for 15 items. Because you know for a fact, if you place 15 orders at the same time, you may get one free. You know, there are incentives like that. Okay, then you are raising a purchase contract with your supplier. Is this clear?
I would put in a different way, sir. You can kindly endorse it or you say it. If the originator is seller, the contract originator to the contract is a seller, it's a seller's contract, sale contract. Or if the originator is a purchaser, it's a purchase contract. Can I go by that?
See,
who is initiating the contract? It depends on that. The title goes. Can I take that way?
It can, see, because these are all connotations made by the organizations. Got it? These are all connotations made by the organization.
No hard and fast rule.
Pardon me?
No hard and fast rule.
No, there are hard and fast rules. So that's why I said between the, let's say I'm talking from an international point of view, okay? Between the buyer and the seller, okay, it is the sales contract. The buyer has given a purchase order and it is being ratified by the seller with a sales contract. And if there is any dispute between the two, what goes to the court and the judge will ask for the sales contract, not for the purchase contract. It's a sales contract because the sales contract is ratification by the seller based on the terms and conditions agreed upon by the buyer. Are you able to see little more?
My point is that sale and purchase are the two sides of the same coin.
No, it cannot be.
Both parties, purchase and seller will sign the contract. Both purchaser and seller, they sign the same contract. Am I right to that extent, sir?
See, these are all circumstantial issues, what you're saying. These are all circumstantial issues. That's why I gave the example of the Whirlpool example.
No, one minute, sir. In a purchase contract, purchaser will sign and seller also will sign the.
Right. Yes.
And in a sales contract, seller will sign, purchaser will also sign the.
No, see, you try to please answer the example what I gave. Okay. You are the agent of Whirlpool. Okay. And you are selling Whirlpool, okay, appliances in your designated territory. Okay. When you sell that, you are giving a sales agreement to concerned customers.
Sir, 1 minute. Yeah. 1 minute. I don't have much issue on this, but my only primary issue to the pointed question is that whereas there cannot be a sale without a purchase and a purchase without a sale, and both of them sign the same agreement, why do we have these two names, sales contract and purchase contract?
No, first of all,
that is my basic question, sir.
Right. The answer to that is, okay, these are two different issues. That's why I said it cannot be the same. These are two different functions. These are two different functions, so it cannot be the same. But it's okay, like what you're rightly saying, this is what you may be facing in your company or in your territory, okay? Or this could be the practice in the market. Nobody can deny that. Got it?
Okay, sir. I will stop at this point. Okay.
Okay, it could be
Right,
a
sir.
practice within your within your own territory. So purchase and sales, okay, it looks to be the same, but these are two different activities carried out by different people. Okay, probably in certain places
True.
it is considered as one and the same. That's what you're saying.
Two separate sub-activities of the same main activity. One fellow is selling, one company is selling, other fellow is a company are purchasing.
Right.
Then only the entire transaction is complete.
Correct.
Then by two names. That is my rudimentary doubt.
So your question is,
Sir,
I understand.
anyway.
I understand. Yeah. Your question is, why should be two names should be there, correct?
Yeah. They are one and the same.
Right,
Part
it's
one, part two.
same, agreed. But intrinsically, there is two actions are taking place.
Right, sir. Sir, I will put one more example, sir. In the property dealings, when we sell a property, we normally say deed of conveyance, we say sale deed. We don't say purchase deed.
No, it's sales deed.
There is a purchase, we say sale deed, and the purchaser automatically will get the title out of the sale. Sale
deed.
They don't say purchase deed. They only say in any sub-register office, we put the name sale deed only.
Right, correct.
And it includes, it is automatically understood, implied that there is a purchase in it and there is a purchaser's name is written there.
Correct, because the fundamental document is the sales deed.
Yeah.
Fundamental document is the sales deed, even though the function which has happened for the buyer is a purchase. Understand?
Yes. Okay. Yes. That why it is? Why in commodities it is not like that? That is my point.
See, these are things which are being carried out by certain industries. You know, they have their own ways of looking at it.
Okay.
Yes, it's a good question. Yes, it's a good question because again, I'm repeating, these are all things which are happening in certain markets and they have the practice of calling it like that. It's two different activities like what you rightly said. Thank you. It's a good question.
Right.
It's a good question. Do you understand the international implications?
Yeah. But this needs to be corrected.
I know.
See, just because there is a convention, we cannot blindly go by the convention. We need to change the convention. It should be logical. It should be appealing.
But see, can you change what is happening in a business environment in a locality?
Agreed.
This is what it is. Okay. See, when you do a course like this, it's for you to understand the intricacies of the trade. Okay, because you alone cannot change that, but you can make an effort over a period of time. People will understand. Yes.
Exactly. People who are listening, at these things, they should also take it. This needs to be corrected. The terminology or the jargon has to be suitably modified.
Correct. You know, that is the essence of a course like this. The terminologies have to be understood, it has to be interpreted, and it has to be acted upon properly. That is what the whole name of the game is.
They need to be changed also. If there is a change to need to change.
Yeah, but you know, see, change is something which is difficult, very difficult. Okay, itself is a subject on its own. Change order. Okay, or I mean, sorry, to bring a change in a company itself is difficult. So think about the market. So what happens is now, to answer your last question, only through proper associations you can do that. Okay, Merchants Association or local chamber of commerce, then only you can bring these sort of changes. The nomenclature of trading has to change according to the evolution of the business environment. Okay, it needs time. It cannot happen overnight. Thank you.
Oh.
Good. Good for good to have an interaction after a long time. Good, thank you. Right.
Thank you, sir. Right.
Now let's look at, okay, fixed prices and quantities including taxes. Then buyer's right of inspection and rejection. Okay, we are going to talk about this quite a bit in detail. Okay, so I will explain as we go along. Then holding buyer harmless of patent infringement. Okay, now yesterday my colleague Shyam, who was the observer, made a mention of it. Okay, I'll repeat it because it's important. Please listen carefully. Let us say when you're buying an expensive item, okay, which has got a technology, built-in technology in it. Your supplier has given you, or okay, an overseas supplier has given you a quotation. Okay, it is important at the same time to get from the supplier a certification. Okay, it's called a disclaimer. Okay, what he will say in the certification is that the material, okay, so and so, the technical name and all that, what is being quoted is not being pirated from anybody. Okay, I'm not giving the legal words, I'm just giving you the explanation. Okay, the title of infringement belongs to them. It is not a pirated product. Okay, so what they are giving you the assurance is they are holding us harmless. Okay, in case of any dispute, they are the ones who are responsible. Okay, we will be held harmless. Okay, this is called absolvency certification. We will be absolved of all liabilities. Okay, when you buy this. And the entire responsibility lies with the supplier himself. Okay, that's called the holding buyer harmless patent infringement. That means they have not infringed the patent from anybody. It is their own patent product. Then right to make specification or design changes. Okay, now when a design has been agreed, has been put in the purchase order, okay, the buyer has got maximum, okay, it varies from company to company. Normally, the buyer has got the maximum 2 occasions to change the designs, not more than that. Okay, if he wants to do more than that, then he will have to pay for it. Okay, right. Okay, any more clarification on the purchase order? Is it clear? Can I move on? Right, let's get a little more details into the purchase order. Suppliers right to assign a contract to a third party. Okay, this must be put in the purchase order, or let's say to start with in the performer invoice right itself. Okay, right, then instructions regarding risk or loss. Instructions regarding risk or loss should be shown very clearly as well. Then statement of credit and payment terms. Okay, this will always be shown properly on the perform invoice. It's called documentary credit. Okay, always remember that for all international trading transactions, it will be there will be a letter of credit. Okay, there can be other arrangements as you go along. Right, then identification of packing and preparation. Okay, this is also mentioned very much in the purchase orders. How? Okay, now large companies, oil companies like Aramco and all that, they have their own markings. I'm talking about non-containerized cargo. Okay, they have got their own identification and color coding. All this has to be abided as shown in the purchase order. That statement of warranty. Okay, now like what I said. See, warranty is a gray area. The purchaser, the suppliers may not give it very specific. Okay, so it's essential that you got to ask them to give it in an SLA manner where everything is spelled out. I think I've talked quite a bit about warranty, so I'm not repeating it. Okay, then shipment dates and shipment quantities and dates. Okay, this also I've said. Do not commit to your customer any delivery date because then you are asking for trouble. Okay. So you will only say ETA, estimated time of arrival, or estimated time of sailing. Okay. So be very careful. Assignment of seller's rights and arbitration clause. Okay. This is something which is very much to be incorporated. Okay. Let us say you are in India and you are raising a purchase order. Okay. And you will say the law of the land is applicable. Okay. In case of any dispute, okay, what is applicable in the Indian courts, the laws, it will be governed by the laws in the Government of India, okay, in the Indian territory. But your supplier in France may not agree to that. He will say European Union, okay. Then you may negotiate. You can go to a neutral country like Switzerland or UK, okay. UK arbitration. Now UK has got, see, normally people have to go to UK, but now UK arbitration has got an office in Dubai. Okay, so they have made it much easier. Or the most common thing now, what is happening is both the parties, instead of going for a dispute and all that, for convenience, they resort to an international body like the International Chamber of Commerce in Paris. Okay, the International Chamber of Commerce is a body, is a regulatory body, which has got, they are responsible for the in-court terms. They are responsible for the letter of credit. Okay. Likewise, they are responsible for so many international trading subjects. Okay. I have given in your website a copy of the International Chamber of Commerce contract as a sample to see. Okay. So these are all, okay, these are all things mentioned in the purchase order, and you have to be careful as to what are the things you are specifying in the purchase order. Okay, any questions on the purchase order? Are these things clear? Okay, can I move on? Any more questions? Okay, right, this comes our famous friend, boiler terms. Okay, this is my favorite subject because in my experience, this is where we are taken, the consignees or the buyer can be taken for a jolly good ride by the suppliers, especially if they are very dominating, like the Europeans or the Americans. Okay, they will say just standard terms and conditions as shown on the boiler. They will say as terms and conditions as per boiler terms shown at the back of the commercial invoice. Simple as that. That is their attitude. They will not give you any details, usually printed on the back of forms. Make sure you read and understand suppliers' boiler terms. Never assume. You got to ask questions. You got to put it very clearly. We do not accept boiler terms. You got to specify all charges under the, all charges applicable in this particular scenario. Okay, items not stipulated in the boiler terms will not be acceptable. Okay, challenge terms in writing that you won't accept it. Please understand this is a very important thing. Okay, do not get carried away with these sort of things. Say you want everything to be put in black and white. Only what is stated will be accepted. Okay, this is the famous boiler terms. Then the price. Single most important element of the entire contract. Open pricing. Lack of agreement on price does not mean the agreement is unenforceable. Okay, lack of agreement on price does not mean the agreement is unenforceable. See, now you may have your own doubts seeing this particular one. Lack of agreement on price. Okay, like what we have seen yesterday or day before. Okay, certain contracts like cost-based contract, okay, you cannot estimate all the cost at one go because you are dealing with very highly expensive items, okay, like building a ship, which can take 5 to 8 years or more, or aircraft, which is being customized. See, these are all very expensive products wherein certain changes are being made, okay? So it's very difficult to, okay, estimate the cost in total, okay? So what they do is, in a cost-based agreement contract, between the buyer and the seller, they have a general agreement as to what will be the terms, okay? The seller will say, yes, I will provide you as per cost, but then please ensure, please accept my terms of adding 15 to 20%, depending on the circumstances. He will give a percentage, say that this is what my markup is. Okay, so this is what I want you to agree. And then, okay, rest of it we will work out. Okay, so with that predetermined markup, okay, they will function. Now, the seller may negotiate with his supplier, okay, and then they may come up with certain percentage, as discount, and then that is mutually shared between the two. Okay, so there are different contracts having different methodology in the contract settlement with predetermined incentive, all kinds of things are there. Okay, so that's what it is. Then both the parties must intend making a binding contract with price open. Okay, actually, this is what I said, price open. Okay, then must be some reasonably certain basis for giving relief or determining value. Okay, must be some reasonable certain basis for giving relief or determining value. Okay, when it's a contract which has got several ramifications, or okay, you're working on a contract which has got public importance, okay, then you tend to be much more flexible in the pricing. Okay, right. So this is what pricing is all about. Now let us, okay, any more clarification on the pricing? Is it understood? Okay, now let us see. Now you will have a lot of questions. Very important things are coming up. Cancellation of purchase order. Okay, cancellation for default. Let's see what is that. Cancellation for default can happen if, as a supplier, you have continuously defaulted in maintaining the lead time, what has been given. You have been coming up with so many excuses. Okay. The example, what comes to my mind is the supplier manufacturer collaboration agreement. Okay. This is what the future is in the logistic and supply chain arena. Collaboration agreements are the future. It's a collaboration between the supplier and the manufacturer. Okay. The best example.
So, but how many
Yeah.
times do they have to default, sir, for
Right.
us to take any action?
Right.
Is there a specific number?
Yes, it is something which you can specify it, or it depends on the basis of our understanding, or you can mention it on the purchase order. It's a good question. Okay. See, normally, okay, let me give this example and then I'll come back to you. Okay. So this is considered, the manufacturing of Boeing 787 was considered the world's largest buyer-seller collaboration contract. Okay, in which 85% is being outsourced to various countries internationally. 35% comes from Japan. Okay, now the point what I was trying to say was, in this particular contract, faced several issues in the beginning itself, because the raw material in which they were making these aircrafts was not available. Almost 1.5 years went by. Okay. because the raw materials were not available. So in such cases, these are genuine issues. When it is a genuine issue, you can put it in black and white with proof of, okay, showing the exact position in the market. Okay, these are genuine, okay, issues which has to be demonstrated with a sufficient proof. It is not subject to cancellation because you're informing them well in advance. Now, to answer your question, Nimisha, is now how many times, okay, it is something which you can agree mutually and you can put it in the contract as well. See, what is said is some of the suppliers has got a habit of continuously defaulting on the lead times. Okay, then what you have to do is, as a company, you have to send them warning letters. First warning, second one. Okay, then the third one you can say, okay, so I'm sorry, if you still do not supply us within next 1 month, okay, or 2 weeks time, please consider it as cancelled. Okay, but the starting point is you try to mention it in the contract. Okay, now on this subject, let me move a little more deeper into the subject. Okay, what is stated, what is said is that by the court also is that do not keep accepting the excuses given by the supplier. Okay, if you keep on accepting these excuses, okay, you lose the chance of enforcing. You forfeit the right of enforcing the lead time promised. Got it? So what the court says is do not keep accepting these are the excuses. Because if you keep accepting these excuses, it becomes a precedence in the law. Okay, if it goes to the court, that's exactly what the judge is going to say. How come you are accepting this in all your other courts, other orders? Why is it that you are refusing here? Okay.
So that can legally be used against you when
Absolutely.
you
That's
accept.
why, yes,
Okay.
It has become a precedence. Okay.
Okay.
So even though you have made a mention in the contract that only 2 is permitted, okay, with proper reasons, if you keep on accepting the lead time excuses, it becomes a precedence. So please don't do that. That's what the court says. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now let's see the other one. Okay. Cancellation by mutual consent. Okay. Now, cancellation of the order can be carried out if buyer and the seller mutually agree. Okay, let us say the situation like what we have all gone through. Let's hope it does not happen again. Okay, a pandemic like the COVID. Okay, the entire country went through it. Business has been disrupted. Shipping has been disrupted. All kinds of catastrophic events have happened. Okay, the manufacturers had problems because of labor shortage, all kinds of issues. And the market has suffered because there is no cash flow, there's no business. Okay, in such a scenario, both can agree on, they can cancel the order and without, okay, by mutually understanding the issues, what each people is facing, and then agree upon having it when the good time starts or when the things are better. Okay, so it's a mutual agreement by consent. Then look at the other one, cancellation for convenience of the purchaser. Okay? Of the purchaser, and this is called anticipatory breach. Now, let us say our purchaser is back in India, okay, and the company has gone through a very bad phase. Okay, let us say the company has been managed by a family, it's a family concern, and there has been a dispute between the brothers, and it has gone to the court. Okay, the company has faced a lot of financial constraint. Okay, and the business is on the run. Okay, in that case, the purchaser can evoke his right. Okay, he can make a request for cancellation. He can make a request for anticipatory breach because of the business circumstances what he's going through. Okay, is this clear? These are all things which are possible in the contract. Okay, now the only thing what I would like to say as an overrider, all these facts and all these facts what I'm saying should be incorporated in the contract. Then you have recourse when the time comes. Let's hope things doesn't happen that way. Okay, is this clear now? How cancellation can be done? We will see that as we go along more in detail. Okay, cancellation for default. One of the parties fails to live up to the terms and conditions of the contract. Okay, like the reasons what I just explained. Supplier's action. Yes, this is what I said. Late deliveries, failing to meet product specifications, otherwise failing to perform to the terms of the contract. Okay. Right, this is where supplier's actions have, okay, whereby you are forced to. Okay, now, Nimisha, I have a question for you. Let's take the situation number 2. Okay, this has happened for your company. What will be your stand?
So situation number 2 meaning failing to meet product specifications.
Yes, it can be that or late deliveries or otherwise failing to perform the terms of the contract. So what you will do is,
this would,
yeah, please go ahead.
these are like legal grounds to cancel the contract, right?
Right, now, how will you
So,
classify these under what? Please understand, all of you, I want on completion of this course, when you get back to your organizations, okay, to use the right terminology in all your communications. Okay, you have to classify these as breaches of contract. Got it? Okay, you have to classify these as breaches of contract. Then you got to give them in writing warning letters. Okay,
warning letters, yes.
yes, warning letter number 1, warning letter number 2. Okay, failing to meet production specifications. I'm sorry, product specifications. See, then what you can do is you give them a notice of breach of contract, number 1. Then you ask for explanation. Understand? You ask for explanation, and also in the same letter, see, and these things should be drafted along with the legal counsel, okay, and with your own expertise in applications. There you can give them a time frame for correction. Okay, they have to give you a proper explanation. Possibly the technology what they have used is incorrect and what you asked for is something else. So you can call for all kinds of explanation. I mean they have to give us, they have to give you all documentary proof as to what technology has been used, why the product specification has changed from what we have given. So it becomes a dispute. Do you understand? Okay, these are disputes. Now, in this case, okay, how will you go back on this? How will you start working on this dispute? What is the fallback for you, Nimisha? What is the fallback? When I say fallback,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
yes, sir. When you say fallback, what exactly
Right.
do you mean?
Fallback means what is the document where you can refer to them and say, you have mentioned here black and white. And what is that document?
So is it the
Sales
sales
contract.
contract? Yeah,
Absolutely.
sales contract. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That is what I was just talking with my gentleman before. Okay. This is a sales contract. You can say you have stipulated in the sales contract. This is the product specification you're going to provide me. Okay. Now what you have provided is totally different. So it's a breach of contract. So I have every right to claim for the loss of revenue, what I've incurred. See, my opportunity cost. See, you can come up with all kinds of claims, provided it's in the contract, okay? That's the most important part. So legally, you can put a claim on the supplier, okay? Got it? Okay, is it clear to everybody? Okay, right. Then subject to damages, okay? So let's move. Right, anticipatory breach, what we are talking about. Purchaser is liable for any resulting injury to the supplier. What is that? Okay, avoid languages of this to in any purchase contractor, what we talked about it, because it's highly interpretable in a court, may result in negative actions against us, okay? Now, purchaser is liable for any resulting injury to the supplier. Okay, what is that? Okay, it can be purchaser is liable. See, because as a purchaser, how you communicate, okay, to the supplier is something which is very important. Okay, he should not be accused personally. Okay, whatever you say has to have a substantial grounding, substantial evidence, okay, like what we said in the previous slide. Okay, you have stipulated these conditions as per the purchase order, and what you have supplied is totally against what is mentioned in the sales contract. Okay, so hence you are putting a claim against the supplier for a very large sum, including loss of opportunities. Now, not only opportunities, now if you have to place another order and get it, okay, there is a cost for that as well. Got it? So these are all things which has, but do not put a wrong claim onto the supplier. See, that is what it means. Do not come up with an injurious claim with this for the supplier, because it can affect his reputation as well. Got it? So you have to be very careful as to how you interpret, how you come up. I mean, you got to get into the depth of it. You got to do a cost effective, root cause analysis to see what is the real issue. Okay, and then take it from there. Right. Cancellation by mutual trust does not automatically result in legal action. Parties may negotiate any potential loss between the parties. Okay, I'm just moving a little more faster because of the time limit. Breach of contract. Seller is obliged to deliver the goods according to the contract's terms and conditions. Seller is obligated to deliver the goods according to the contract's terms and conditions. Okay, purchaser is obliged to accept and tender payment for the goods according to the terms of the agreement. Okay, may result in remedies or damages. Buyers should avoid practice of routinely allowing suppliers to breach purchase contracts. Right, this is what I was just talking about. Okay, may lead to forfeit or future legal action. So if you resort to this one, you forfeit your future legal action. Okay, you forfeit the right of legal action. To regain legal rights, buyer must explicit written notice or provisions to meet the time frame, to meet the requirements. Okay, so you got to be careful as to what what you come up with your supplier. Everything has to be in black and white. Okay, now when it is evident that it is a breach, you got to put it in breach. Okay, but be careful. You have to use legally permitted words. You have to look into the contract, what is stipulated in the contract.
Okay. I'm not too sure, but I think we lost the audio.
Pardon me?
I'm not too sure, but I think we've lost the audio, sir.
Audio? I see, because suddenly it has started raining.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a local problem. My father's also facing the same.
No, sir, he was audible till now.
Audible,
It's fine.
okay. Right.
Yeah.
Oh. Right, I'll make it a little more faster because, right, let's look at the damages. Okay.
I can't hear you.
Being made whole bring purchaser back to the position where he or she would have been if the breach had not occurred. Okay, I would like to recollect what we were talking before. Okay, we were talking about a product which has landed, a product specification which is a product has landed, but the specification shown in the purchase order and what has landed are two different things. Okay, then you are within your rights to put a claim to the supplier. Okay, saying yes, you have delayed the supply and now you have brought it and it's totally against the product specification of what you made. Okay, so hence we have no other alternative but to submit our claim for opportunity loss. Okay, so being made, this is a phrase which is very much used in the legal language. Okay, so bring purchaser back to the position where he or she would have been if the breach had not occurred. Right. Let me move to another very important topic. Okay, now I want to talk about another body. Okay, this is UCC, Unified Commercial Practice. Okay, sorry, Unified Commercial Code. Now, UCC, UCC has made up these codes for different subjects like transportation, like banking. Okay, you will see a whole list very soon. Okay, now these are called moral codes, CODS, codes. Okay, in US itself, these UCC codes have been adopted. See, mind you, these are not enforceable codes. These are moral codes. So in USA, several of the states have adopted from these UCC codes and they've incorporated in their law itself because these are very guidelines. So they have incorporated in their law. Okay. So in the UCC, actual versus punitive damages, UCC does not allow punitive damages. Okay. Now only actual is permitted, not imaginary damages. Okay. How does it happen? Okay. How does punitive damages happen? Okay, or imaginary damages can happen. Okay, let me give an example. Okay, let's say it's a container. When a container, okay, am I audible now? Any problem? Am I audible?
Professor,
Yes, sir,
you're audible, sir. Now you're
Yeah.
audible. I think it was an issue at my end. Please go ahead, sir. Sorry. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Now let's say how a damage can happen. In a containerized shipment, if the container is loaded from the factory has got its own norms as to what height it can load the material. Okay, let's say it's all cartons, same item in the cartons, and the factory has got norms as to how much height it can load. Let's say maximum 3 or 4, depending on the type of material. Okay, so in that sort of scenario, the distribution, okay, when the container is full of items, okay, the damage which can happen to a cargo which is at the bottom is minimal because the same items are in the container. Okay, that's number one scenario. Now, in a consolidated container wherein there are different commodities which are being loaded, and the logistics service company's intention is to load as much as possible to optimize the space. Okay, there is every chance they will load and there can be damages because they look at the optimum utilization of the space. Okay, so what can happen is the boxes which are at the bottom is susceptible to get compressed damages. Okay, normally in the actual practice, we always tell customers, even if it's even if you have the original packing of the supplier, please go for a crating so that, okay, there are wooden pallets underneath. Okay, it's a crate. So even if other pallets, even if other boxes are kept on the top, compressed damages will not happen because the wood prevents it. Okay, so what happens is when the other items, okay, reaches the warehouse, when they open it, they can see what is inside has been damaged. There is no external damage to the material. Okay, so once you open it, you can see how things are damaged inside. Okay, so this is why it's called actual versus damages, punitive damages. Punitive damages are not accepted. Right, these are the general damages equal to the difference between the value of the purchased goods at the time of delivery against the goods value at the time specified for delivery. Okay, this is a scenario what we were talking yesterday. I'll repeat it again because it's important. You have placed an item in 2022 on the 5th of August, okay, with a lead time, let's say for 2 years. Okay, now let us say it's an expensive item which has got a technology built in it. Okay, so the value of the product when you have ordered now and when it is going to be delivered, there can be a change in the value of the material what is being given. Okay, now the supplier is obliged to give you the technology what is applicable at the time of delivery. That is the norm. Okay, and the supplier has got every right to go back to the buyer and say, yes, the technology or what you are going to use is going to be the current one, and there is going to be a price difference for that. Okay, he's got every right to ask for that. Okay, so that's what it is. So there can be a difference in the value of the purchased goods at the time of ordering as well as at the time of delivery. Okay, again, all this depends on how you put it in the original contract. Okay, in the original. Okay, so the original contract, how the wording is, that is what the name of the game is. Includes incidental damages reasonably occurred in inspection, okay, receipt, transportation, and care and custody of the goods rejected. Okay, so damages can happen while inspection, receipt, transportation, care and custody of the goods rejected. Let's go a little more to the next slide because we are going to have more explanation on that. Consequential damages, what are they? Those damages occurred by the purchaser because the goods were not delivered when expected or as specified. See, consequential damages. Okay, now the supplier had promised a lead time. Okay, but what happens was there was he kept on delaying the lead time. Okay, with his excuses. Okay, so the organization or the ultimate consignee, okay, cannot put a claim onto you as the buyer. Got it? Okay. Now, the only party who is responsible and who has to pay for such late delivery is the main contractor. Let's say it's a turnkey project. Okay, the main contractor is responsible for such consequential damages. Okay, no subcontractor will ever pay such consequential damages. Okay, it's not in their contract. No contractor, no subcontractor will accept consequential damages because we are all intermediaries. Okay, whether it's coming by air, whether it's coming by sea or truck, it's okay, anything can happen. And this is why we teach the theory of constraints. Okay, however we plan, these things can happen. Right. Let me move on. Liquidated damages. Those damages that result if the terms of the contract are not fulfilled and are typically defined prior to the breach under the terms of contract. Okay. See, again, similar to what I just said, downtime. Okay. a manufacturing company ordered by air freight certain spares because, okay, the whole factory was down. Somehow the air freight shipment was delayed because due to some reason of the airline, okay, even though everything was planned, there was a delay from the airline, okay. So this is something which is beyond the control of the logistics company, okay. So this is a liquidated damage, and the manufacturing company cannot put a liquidated damage against anybody, okay. This is where the company themselves have to have their own liability insurance. Right, okay, so we are now moving on to very interesting thing called acceptance and rejection of goods. Okay, let's see that. UCC allows, that is the Uniform Commercial Code, allows partial acceptance and partial rejection for a cause. After acceptance, seller's right increases and purchase right decreases. So this is a natural corollary of events. Once acceptance occurs, only remedy is to make a claim against the seller. Please understand the scenario. The material has come to your warehouse, and on opening you found that, okay, the entire cargo has been damaged. Okay, so you cannot reject the material. Okay, you, on the contrary, as the buyer, you have to take appropriate measure, put a claim onto the seller. Okay, saying that you have received the cargo in a damaged condition. Okay, that's one. But at the same time, you are responsible for, okay, putting a claim with your own insurance company. Okay, as a buyer, you got to have your own cargo transit insurance, wherein you can put in a claim with the within your insurance company. Okay. Right. UCC specifies that the purchaser does not have the right to withhold payment once acceptance is made. Okay. UCC specifies that purchaser does not have the right to withhold payment once acceptance is made. Okay. Now, combining this slide and this one, I can just give you an example which comes to my mind. Okay, I had a situation in Dubai wherein a company ordered for batteries from Russia, from a country called Romania. Okay, this person was my student. So he got into a claim, he got into a situation and he approached me for a solution. When I looked at it, there were a lot of mistakes. Okay, now what has happened is the batteries were ordered from Romania, these heavy duty batteries, and they came to Dubai. They were customs cleared. It's all in a container. Okay, the consignee did not want the container to come in because there is no space for unloading. So they said, okay, you unload it and then bring it to us, to our warehouse. So after customs clearance, the container was brought to the yard of this customs broker. And while he was opening the container, batteries started falling down one by one. They got further damaged. Okay. Now, these people, what they did was they just put some rope, tied it around, and then sent it to the ultimate consignee, okay, to his warehouse. They made a hue and cry of after receiving the damaged goods, taking photographs, putting the whole claim onto them. Okay, now, and they stopped the payment of the logistics company as well. And this is where I come in. Okay, and when I start looking at the documents, I found that the cargo was only 1/3 of the container, because these are heavy duty, batteries. So after loading by the supplier, he just loaded and just pushed it inside the container. Okay, these are expensive. These are heavy. What he failed, the supplier failed to do was, since it was not mentioned anywhere, okay, to lash and brace the batteries inside the container. See, inside the containers, there are tying holes are there, okay? And tying holes are there, toggles are there. That's where you have to tie it up, lash it and brace it strongly so that it doesn't move. This was not done. So the batteries had a good time moving around, okay, have a jolly good time while it has been shifted and transported, and it was damaged. And then here now, after opening, it fell down. Okay, now after being informed, okay, the company, what they just stopped the payment. That's it. What the company failed to do was they had their own insurance company. It's a European company, and they refused to come. See, and they readily accepted it. See, that is the wrong thing. When you have got your own insurance company, they are obliged to come and take, okay, and they have to file the claim with the company. Damages happen. Take inappropriate action because you have taken an insurance claim and you are supposed to, okay, file the claim. This company did not do it. Instead of that, they held the freight charges of the consignee of my client. Okay, so I told my client, okay, tell them, okay, if they are not willing to pay, we're going to give for an arbitration in the Chamber of Commerce. So we paid the charges for arbitration, and then we were invited for arbitration in the Chamber of Commerce. Okay, so I went along with him, and so the company was giving all kinds of things, all kinds of complaints and blah, blah, what they lost, all the stories. So afterwards, it came to my chance. So I told the arbitrator, we are logistics providers. Okay, our responsibility is to transport the material from A to B only. We are not responsible for the insurance of the cargo. That has been taken by the customer directly, and it is up to them to file the claim again with their insurance company. Okay, that is what they have to do. Their insurance company may come to us, okay, putting the blame on us. That's a different issue. Then we can answer that. We know how to do that. But they failed to do that. Instead, what they have done is they have held back our payment. I said, we have already incurred the cost. We have transported from Romania up to Dubai. We have paid the insurance, the shipping line. Okay, so this is what it is. Okay, now see, look at this clause. UCC specifies that the purchaser does not have the right to hold the payment once acceptance is made. So this is one fact. Then I said, as far as the commercial law of Dubai and as well as the standard trading conditions are, as per the standard trading conditions, a consignee is not permitted to hold the payment. So I quoted this fact as well. They have no right to hold our payment. Okay, so finally the arbitrator understood our point of view and we were told to give some concession and the matter was closed. Okay, I just narrated to show that how you can handle a subject matter, okay, if you use the law properly, okay, because they already accepted.
In this example you gave, if it was clearly mentioned that it had to be latched properly and they still didn't do it, then the liability would be on them, right?
On the supplier.
For the damages. Yes.
Yes.
So the insurance wouldn't come into picture at all, right? It would directly be their liability.
See, that is why when I teach the Incoterms now, especially for X works, okay, I categorically say lashing and bracing is for the lashing and bracing is for the account of the supplier, because in the latest Incoterms, the responsibility for lashing and bracing, to start with, the latest Incoterms 2020, the customer, the shipper is not obliged to do the loading at all. That's the starting point. Let me repeat. In the latest Incoterms 2020, the supplier, the shipper is not obliged even to load the cargo. Okay, so what you should do is, in the purchase order, you must explicitly say container loading, lashing and bracing is for the account of the supplier. If they come up with additional cost, accept it, because if you accept that, then the liability rests with the supplier. Okay, so be careful. These are precautionary measures one has to take. Okay, is it clear? Is it clear
Yes,
now?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Clear, sir. Thank you.
Now let's look at the second point. We'll move fast. Purchaser also does not have the right to send the goods back unless accepted by the seller. Okay, so you have no right. You have to intimate your seller, your seller, and say that the items are damaged and get their permission, then only you're allowed to send it back. Okay, in a country like Saudi Arabia, the rule is once goods have landed in Saudi Arabia, nobody can touch it. Nobody can touch it until the consignee in Saudi Arabia gives a letter of no objection. Nobody can touch it. So the law can vary from country to country. The purchaser has a legitimate right to inspect the goods before accepting or rejecting them. Okay, with reasonable time. Okay, see, this reasonable time is something is very important. We are going to move into that. Okay, so reasonable time also has to be agreed well in advance. Okay, now obvious and latent defects. In a rare situation, purchaser may be allowed to revoke prior acceptance if latent problem is discovered that substantially impairs the value of the goods. When prior inspection could not take place for reasons not related to negligence on the part of the purchaser. So this is a typical example what I said. In a mixed container, yes, so many items are loaded in it. Okay, and then you have brought the material to your warehouse and then you found your carton, even though it does not have any physical damage. Once you open it, the items inside are compressed. Okay, outside physically there is no damage at all. It is a compressed damage. Okay, so this is a latent defect which you can inform your insurance company, take photographs and then send it to them. Okay, but you file the claim with your insurance company. Okay, then the insurance company will send a notification to the shipper holding them responsible for the damages. So the claim you file with your insurance company, the insurance company will directly coordinate with your shipper to get this claim settled. Is this understood? Okay, this is the way it should be. But the initial notification has to be done with your own insurance company. Right, purchaser must provide notice to seller within a reasonable time. Okay, now this reasonable time should be agreed in well in advance. Okay, well in advance. Let's say 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, or 1 month, whatever it is. It should be agreed in the contract well in advance. What is the reasonable time? Being specific in notifying supplier that a contractual breach exists. General statements are not advocacy, are not educate notification. So this is what I'm saying. I'm repeating again. When you communicate with the shipper, you have to use legal terminology. You have to use the right words. Contractual obligation, contractual breach. Okay, let's look at how you have to put it. See, once goods have been accepted, the purchaser has 2 obligations. Purchaser must carry the burden of proof that the goods did not conform to the terms and conditions. The purchaser must within reasonable time after discovery notify the seller the breach or loss chance of remedy. Okay, so these are all things you have to be careful. Okay, once you have accepted the goods, then you are the purchaser. You have there are obligations. You have to prove it. Okay, but even if there is a breach, you have to prove. Okay, acceptance means ownership. Okay, now this is what you have to put in. See, please, I want everybody to understand this Okay, when you get material in your warehouse, okay, you should instruct all the concerned people not to sign blindly that the cargo is received. Okay, you should put a remark like this: receiving department should stamp all receipt of goods received, subject to inspection, count and testing. See, received, subject to inspection, count and testing. So this testing should be done within reasonable period of time. It can be 2 weeks, whatever has been agreed with the supplier. Okay. Purchase order terms and conditions should indicate all receipts are subject to inspection, count and testing. Okay. You can put in the purchase order and okay, or you can have along with the purchase order an SLA, service level agreements, where all these things are, these things can be included or should be included. Goods should be inspected as quickly as possible, ideally immediately upon delivery. Okay. This is mandatory for you in the warehouse. Once goods are received, it should be subject to inspection, count, and see, the testing may take a little bit of time because certain people within the organization have to come, but make sure they come within the reasonable time and then inspect it. Okay, then only you can put the claim. Otherwise, you will forfeit the right. Honest mistakes. Okay. Generally, honest mistakes will not void a contract. Requires careful consideration of all circumstances. Mutual mistakes may not necessarily affect the validity of the contract. Mistakes are not covered under UCC, so there is no point of there's no point of talking about it because UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, does not permit mistakes. Rely on traditional contract law. A party will not be given relief against a mistake induced by his or own negligence. Okay, now I have a question for everybody. Listen carefully. You can see here, an issue. Okay, an issue has happened, and it's a subject which has got it's a product which has got high value cargo. Okay. Now, is there any way you can take a shelter under any other insurance? Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, then you will be able to decipher what I'm saying. Okay, we had an example. Okay, we got an order from USA, from a company in Riyadh. Okay, the quotation was given. Then we do not undertake any overseas shipment unless our shipping instructions are signed and stamped by the company. Everything was done. Okay, so based on that, the order was given for about 6,000 kilos of some material. Okay, then once the material landed in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, the consignee will not take it. So we started asking, what is this? So finally we understood that this particular company belongs to a royal family. Okay, which makes it all the more delicate. I used to work for a very large organization, very reputed, very well-established organization. So we have within the organization a corporate guidance that we are not allowed to approach the royal family under any circumstances. Okay, so my general manager said, PJ, you handle it. Okay, so what has happened is they just don't want the material. They said very clearly they're washing their hands and saying we lost the order, so we don't want the material. And because it's a royal family, we cannot go after them, commercially also. So we had no other alternative because we had a liability insurance wherein professional negligence was covered under, was in that particular contract. It's a liability insurance wherein professional negligence was there. Okay, so I've been working on this for a long time, so I took it up with them and gave them, they asked for a lot of explanation. They went through the whole thing, all the documentation what we had. Okay, and finally they understood, yes, we were within the rights. We have carried out all means, methods. Okay, this is called the due process, what I said in the beginning on the first day. We have carried out all the due process. This is what the court would look into. All the due process has been carried out by us. Okay, then finally the claim, okay, then they requested me to go back to the supplier in US and ask for a discount because of the circumstances. Okay, finally I went back, we got 25% discount. Okay, and the claim was settled. Got it? So these are things which can happen. So the point what I was coming to say is, you got to have, when you are involved in a transaction or business, as the organization grows, your liability, your risk of liability, your risk of business goes up as well. So you got to have sufficient liability insurance to cover your operations. Okay, that's the point what I was making. Okay, do you understand now? Okay, rules are based on basic fairness. So this is what the second thing I said yesterday. Okay, the paramount clause in a court is whether the due diligence has been carried out. Number one. Number two is it fair? Okay, these are things which the court would look into. Okay, fairness, okay, due diligence, and justice. These are the three paramount factors any court would look into. That's how decisions are made. Okay, this is Uniform Commercial Code. I'll just make it fast. Purchasing law before UCC. Okay, there are express warranties, implied warranties, warranty of title, warranty of infringement. They all come under UCC. Okay, now UCC has got other articles which are meant for general introductory provisions, transactions on commercial paper, sale of goods and products, then bank deposit and collections. Okay, it can be letter of credit, bank transfers, warehouse receipts, transfer and investment securities, secured transactions. See, all this comes under UCC. Okay, UCC, again, I'm repeating, it's a moral code. Okay, they set up the moral codes applicable internationally. And now each country, okay, or each regulatory body internationally will incorporate this UCC in their own statutes. Okay. Right. Any questions? Any questions? Because I don't want to complicate you with more of UCC and all that. Okay. Okay. Any questions, please? Any clarifications? Right. Any clarifications for today? Was the session too long? Okay. Any clarifications? Any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Misha. Anybody else? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, if there is no more questions, no more clarifications, can I hand over the session back to Madam, please?
Thank you, sir. I think.
How many participants were there, Madam, today?
Participants were 5.
5, okay. 5
Yes.
participants. My goodness. Others were guess.
Yes, sir. Others were guess.
Okay. So thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last day. So
Dr. Rituparna, excuse me, this is dear. I think there were actually 4 participants, and we had received a message on the chat box from Dr. Call saying that she had an urgent, I don't know, meeting or lecture, something like that to attend. So she had put in the message that she'll be peeling away. This was around, I think, 3 o'clock or something, like 3:30. So
3:31.
3:30 or something like that. So we had actually 4, and after subtracting Dr. Call, we had 3.
How many?
3. So 4 minus 1, 3. In total 4, but then Dr. Call had to go away, so that way 3.
No, TR, how many overall? How many total?
As far as attendees are concerned, total 4, sir.
4, okay.
G.
And the guess?
This would be guess as in the panel members.
No, there was no panel members today. So
There is no. That's what.
okay.
I'm talking about the attendees, sir. When everybody comes under attendees only, no.
Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you so much, madam. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
call it a day for today.
Right.
We'll again begin tomorrow at the same time, sir, in the same
Right.
class.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
So
you.
it's the concluding session. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sending you the cloud storage link, ma'am. It's
Yes.
the same link because it's a folder link. So I'll just
No link. So shall I send the same link
same
on?
link. Absolutely, you can just mention that it is for day 5. That's all.
Okay.
The PDF has already been uploaded, ma'am.
Okay,
Good.
sir. Thank
Thank you so much. Bye.
you.